Irish guy, and everyone is leaving Chelsea. Lads, if you are someone like Reece James, you're probably sick of having to say goodbye to so many of your mates. I haven't seen James this depressed since he was kicked off the channel. Sorry, that's a joke, okay, that is a joke. Lads, does anyone really think that the banter is going to be sky high in pre-season? When about 10 people have quit the building, there's going to be a lot of pressure on the likes of Nutting with Dwayne to start telling some jokes. But lads, what I'm going to do today is take a look at all of the Chelsea departures so far and just rank out of 10 how they are going to do at their next club. Right, let's go. Cesar Azpilicueta to Atletico Madrid, 9 out of 10. Well, this one was strange. I was convinced, I think we all were, me, you, your grandma on the loo, that Cesar Azpilicueta was going to quit Chelsea after 11 years to move to Inter Milan. I mean, it was a standard Inter move. Sign a big name defender from the Premier League who's now at an age where he probably gets a stitch just fetching the milk from the fridge. But no. At the last minute, he has rejected the Champions League finalists to join Atletico Madrid, which does make sense. This is a guy who is Spanish and hasn't actually lived in his home country since quitting Osasuna in 2010. There's a man who's been in England so long. He's weirdly a co-owner at #United and is mates with Spencer FC. But listen, Azpilicueta is the perfect buy for Diego Simeone. A battler, a warrior, a winner. A huge upgrade on Matt Doherty. Some unfit guy from Dublin who probably enraged his disciplined coach by eating sausage rolls on the bus. Azpilicueta is only actually 33 years of age, and it'll be weird to see him not in a Chelsea kit. When Chelsea bought him in August 2012 from Marseille for just £7 million, he looked like a tidy, neat buy who'd be out the door within 3 years. I genuinely thought he'd be the Spanish Wayne Bridge, just with a bit more of a loyal wife. Although for all I know, Cesar's missus could have spent the last decade popping around Ashley Cole's house 4 times a week. But listen, he has been a Chelsea legend. Over 500 games, won everything there is to win, and similarly, I reckon he'll be an excellent Atletico buy. A solid first teamer. He'll probably balance out the craziness bought by Kalgar Soyuncu, a Turkish circus clown who makes David Luiz look sane. I reckon he'll be a brilliant right back. I reckon, yes, he will probably begin the season on the bench. But by Christmas, he will have squeezed world champion Nahuel Molina out of the starting 11. I mean, he's only on a 2-year contract, yes, but I reckon he'll stay there for 4, and by 2025, he's going to be the club captain and will retire at 37, having helped Atletico win the Europa League, 2 Copa del Reys, and get a famous 3-0 win at the Bernabeu. Just you watch. 9 out of 10. Mateo Kovacic to Man City, 4 out of 10. Mateo Kovacic is a weird buy. To prove it, he is the oldest outfield player Pep Guardiola has bought since he signed Nolito in 2016. Anyone remember Nolito? Probably not. He was about as memorable as a frog's cough. I honestly don't understand why at 29 years of age and after 5 years at Chelsea, Man City have chosen to sign this guy for 20 million quid. Listen, I know it looks like a dog has jumped ship to Barcelona, and maybe this is City's bitter way of getting back at them by replacing the current Barca star with an ex-Real Madrid midfielder, which would be such a needlessly petty thing to do. It'd be a bit like Amber Heard choosing to DM Orlando Bloom, but I don't understand it. Maybe Man City are still bitter that Chelsea raided them for Sean Wright-Phillips 18 years ago, and this is their way of getting back at them. But I don't know, it's so strange, and it'll be a flop. He will not get into the team. I don't care that Gundogan is left. Considering the club are willing to spend £90 million on Declan Rice, I think we all know that Guardiola would probably prefer this Croatian to just enjoy his milkshakes on the bench. I reckon we're looking at the Croatian Calvin Phillips. He'll be given 10 starts in all competitions, and like most City newbies, his debut season will be a struggle. He'll at times look like an unfit, chain-smoking pig trying to run a marathon. I know Luka Modric is godfather to his child, but this season, Kovacic will look more like a Croatian daddy drink water. I'm giving him a 4, and even that is generous. And honestly, within 18 months, I reckon he'll be sold back to Inter Milan. Ruben Loftus-Cheek to AC Milan, 7 out of 10. Ruben Loftus-Cheek, well done. Ever since Jose Mourinho criticized him in 2015, I think we all knew there was no happy ending for this guy at Stamford Bridge. The only surprise is that it's taken him 8 years to leave. Lads, as a Chelsea fringe player for all of his adult life, I assumed when he did eventually quit, it would be a really uninspiring move, going somewhere like Bournemouth or Burnley. I mean, his loan spells were relegation battles with Fulham and Crystal Palace. Imagine telling a 10-year-old Loftus-Cheek that he would one day be joining AC Milan, who back then were the greatest team in the world. He would be so excited, his little brain would explode out his ears. But Milan are nowhere near that level anymore, but still, he's joining old Chelsea buddies Fikayo Tomori and Olivier Giroud at one of the biggest clubs in the world for 15 million quid. And with the security of a 4-year deal, he's essentially replacing Sandro Tonali in the team, playing as a defensive midfielder in a 4-2-3-1. Again, what a move. I think he'll be quietly quality. He'll be a decent first teamer. I mean, he won't rip up Serie A and establish himself as the English Pirlo, but he also won't have Milan ultras demanding that he be fed to the bears at the zoo. I think he'll have a very good 2 years as Milan repeatedly finishes inside the top 4. I reckon he'll get himself another couple of England caps. squeezing Phillips out of the squad. I mean, yeah, he will lose his place in the Milan team in 2025 to a marquee signing like Cesar Casade from Chelsea. The next one on the conveyor belt from Stamford Bridge, Loftus-Cheek will rot like a pumpkin on the bench for a year before being sold in 2026, with just 1 year left in his deal at 30 years of age to, let's say, Southampton. Kalidou Koulibaly to Al Hilal 2 out of 10. I reckon we are looking at the biggest monster flop in Saudi football. Kalidou Koulibaly is a man whose performances have been absolute dog vomit for a while now. He's clearly got the same hunger for self-improvement as Kelly Clarkson, you know, the former Popeye winner who now probably eats cheeseburgers through a straw. Koulibaly's ambition is done. He's made his money. He's now on £28 million a year. That is £500,000 a week. I reckon his professionalism will go out the window. He will drastically underestimate this league. He'll go through the motions in training. To an extent, we'll probably be snacking at McDonald's halfway through running drills. That Al Hilal have a comparatively weak squad. The only marquee names are him, Ruben Neves, and Mateus Pereira, who's actually been a flop signing since joining from West Brom. This is a guy who's going to be embarrassed by the pace of Saudi plumbers. But the real rock bottom moments will be when the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo, Karim Benzema, and even Jota from Celtic make this highly paid alleged superstar look like a fat snowman in high heels. Honestly, he is going to be a disaster. And within 2 years, the Saudi Chiefs will be begging him to move to the MLS. Edouard Mendy to Al Ahly 3 out of 10. Edouard Mendy's career is so quickly fallen off a cliff. It only felt like 2 minutes ago. This guy was the answer to Chelsea's goalkeeping problems, having literally lifted the Champions League in his debut year. Then he messes up at Ellen Road last August, and just like that, in the blink of an eye, he has signed a 3-year deal with Al Ahly after moving in a £16 million deal. I reckon Mendy is going to be so conflicted because Chelsea was his big break. Bear in mind, before that move in 2020, he only had 2 top-flight seasons in his life with Reims and Rennes in League 1. That's it. Is that really going to be his legacy? 2 seasons as a number 1 in League 1 and 2 seasons as a number 1 in England? I reckon Mendy is going to regret this move. Yes, Mendy is going to be paid a nice wedge, but don't you tell me that he won't be waking up at 3 AM feeling so queasy he vomits into an empty bowl of Weetabix. Right now, he's replacing an Al Ahly legend in nets, the former Saudi number 1, Yasser Al Musailam, who's been number 1 at this club since 2005. To put it in context how long that is, it'd be like Edwin van der Sar was still Man United number 1 now, because he joined them in 2005 too. He turns 40 in February, so yes, I'd imagine he probably has back pain, grey hairs, and a fear of prostate exams. So I don't know, replacing a legend is always going to be tough. And let's be real, Mendy is joining a pretty rubbish team. They've just been promoted from the 2nd tier. He is signing up for a relegation battle. Her team will probably get about 35% possession of the ball. He's literally going to be at the mercy of the likes of Benzema and Ronaldo. Did he even know who he was joining? I reckon he'll get relegated in his debut year, have an existential midlife crisis, and demand to leave next year, begging the Saudi Chiefs to just let him join Roma. Honestly, I reckon this is another disaster buy. Mason Mount to Man United 9 out of 10. Mason Mount is a superb footballer. I don't care what anyone says. And the fact that Manchester United are paying just £60 million to sign him. Wow. I know he only has a year left in his deal. And I know they'll be paying him £250,000 a week. And I know I also said that Jadon Sancho will be a roaring success. When the reality is that so far, he's been about as consistent as a badger with diarrhea. He's also on £350,000 a week, which is so laughably high. Even his own mum probably feels guilty for treating herself to 9 Prada purses a week when her son is doing nothing to warrant that cash. Lads, imagine Mount and Declan Rice being little childhood buddies for Chelsea under 10s. Imagine telling them back in 2009 when they were on their way into the shop to buy themselves a Match magazine and a donut and discussing how they both developed a crush on Sharon Osbourne? Imagine telling them that in 14 years, they will both be professional footballers in the Premier League, both in the England team, and who both in the same summer would be joining Manchester United and Arsenal for a combined £165 million, where they would both be earning contracts worth £250,000 a week. Back then, they were probably both combining their pocket money together to afford an issue of 442 and maybe an X-Men comic. But imagine telling them that if they saved up for a month as adults, they would have a combined £2 million. I don't think any childhood friendship has had more of a mind-blowing glow-up. I mean, I know Xabi Alonso and Mikel Arteta were childhood buddies back in Spain, and they did both move to Merseyside in the summer of 2004, but only for a combined £15 million. Relax. That's Manchester United versus Arsenal at its peak was the huge monster battle in the Premier League. We have been trying for years to get back to the days of Roy Keane versus Patrick Vieira, trying to matchmake grudge battles in the centre of the park. Well, all the players have been so nicey since that now we're literally at a point where we have best friends tackling each other in this fixture. Forget Keane and Vieira trying to break each other's shins. We're now gonna have Rice and Mount giving each other kisses in the tunnel. I mean, whenever there's a stoppage in the game, they'll probably start making dinner plans and asking each other how their mother is. is. It's all just way too nice. But I reckon Mount will be a top buy. He'll squeeze Christian Eriksen out of the starting 11. And I mean, in 5 years, everyone's going to forget that Marcel Sabitzer ever wore a Man United shirt, because Mount is going to be class. Erik ten Hag will free him up as a purely attacking midfielder. I reckon he will spend 9 seasons at Old Trafford and establish himself as a modern day Old Trafford legend. I mean, it's going to be weird. When this man retires, that Chelsea Champions League win is going to look so out of place in context to the rest of his career. I reckon Mount is going to win the first ever Premier League title of his career at Old Trafford. And then 2 more. Honestly, by the time he's finished in 2032, he will have won 3 Premier League titles, 1 Europa League, 1 FA Cup, and will have reached 2 Champions League semi-finals. And because he's proper down with the kids, I reckon his name will be in the top 5 for Premier League shirt sales over the next 10 years. This is going to be a brilliant signing. And yeah, he will eventually leave in his early 30s for Portsmouth, who by then will be a top half Premier League club. Kai Havertz to Arsenal, 3 out of 10. Awful. Absolutely hopeless buy. We're watching it in real time. £65 million for Kai Havertz. Again, like Mount, he's just 24 with a load of time left. Yes, but what's the point? I won't call him a Chelsea flop because he won them the Champions League, but I won't call him a Chelsea success. And players who swap Chelsea for Arsenal always usually fail at the Emirates. And what's the plan? Where's he going to play? I reckon he's far too attacking to play in the midfield 3, especially with Martin Odegaard also in the team. And wide, you've got the blistering pace of Saka and Martinelli. Havertz, by contrast, looks about as quick as Oprah Winfrey on a treadmill. So really, I see him wallowing on the bench before just being a false 9 striker whenever Gabriel Jesus is sick. I really don't see Havertz breaking into the starting 11. I see him mostly growing frustrated on the bench and demanding an exit next summer, where Arsenal will, I'm going to call it, send him on loan to Borussia Dortmund for a year. Come on, I don't think he scores more than 4 goals in the Premier League all season. Maybe 7 in all comps after he bangs in a hat-trick against Walsall in the League Cup. And considering he'll be on wages of £210,000 a week, they will be begging Dortmund to take him off their wage bill for a year before, sending him to RB Leipzig on a permanent basis in 2025. I reckon he's going to be an absolute dud. And N'Golo Kante to Al Ittihad, 8 out of 10. Al Ittihad are the greatest threat to Cristiano Ronaldo. This man who probably backed himself to absolutely dominate the Saudi Pro League and win it every year. And then he sees Al Ittihad storm to the top of the league before sliding Benzema and Kante. While Ronaldo's squad, his big name teammates are Luis Gustavo, Talisca, and some Spanish centre half called Alvaro Gonzalez. Al Ittihad also have Nuno Espirito Santo at the wheel, who is going to be the Fergie of this league. Al Ittihad are going to absolutely dominate for years to come. Before this year, they hadn't actually won the league since 2009, but I reckon Kante will not only make €100 million across a 2-year deal, but he'll lift 2 league titles and an Asian Champions League, which will be the club's first one since they won it back-to-back in 2004 and 2005. He'll also lift a King's Cup, be hailed as a Saudi Pro League legend before leaving at 34 to have another crack at European football with PSG. I reckon, yes, he'll have his injury problems and probably miss about 25% of the games, but still, overall, it will be an absolute success. Romelu Lukaku to Inter Milan, 7 out of 10. Well, this is obvious. Chelsea will sell Romelu Lukaku to Inter Milan on a permanent deal, so they can finally be rid of this entire toxic saga. The Lukaku-Chelsea dynamic has been a weird will they won't they since 2011. Remember when they tried to buy him back from Everton for crazy money in 2017? The same month Man United were obsessing over Alvaro Morata, only for both clubs to just swap their shopping list. Well, finally, Lukaku can finally be done with Chelsea forever. And I reckon, despite him being exactly what Pochettino needs, I mean, he can be Poch's version of Harry Kane. I reckon Chelsea should keep the Belgian striker, but I mean, the damage is done. And I think some Chelsea fans would turn into hormonal banshees if he was to return. So yeah, I see Chelsea selling the most expensive player of all time in accumulated fees for maybe £35 million, which would essentially mean that for this entire mess, Chelsea essentially just paid Inter Milan £60 million for a 1-year loan deal. The more you think about it, the more it probably causes the Chelsea accountants to vomit under their shoes. But I reckon Lukaku will do well. He'll continue to score goals, maybe bang in 20+ goals in all comps this season. I mean, he won't ever win Serie A again, no. There'll be no more Champions League finals, and he'll probably quit Italy in 3 years anyway to finally take that Saudi cash. But yeah, 7 out of 10. Christian Pulisic to AC Milan, 8 out of 10. Apparently Christian Pulisic accepted a move to AC Milan. This move might not happen, and apparently Chelsea are holding out for €20 million, so this is far from being done. But if it does go through, I reckon we'll see a new Pulisic. If Milan can keep him fit, I reckon his pace will rip Serie A to shreds. I reckon after 4 years of absolute frustration, I think he'll score 15 goals in his debut season, become an absolute Milanista favourite. They'll win Serie A with Pulisic in the team, and he'll probably leave after a brilliant 3 years to get a mega money move to Tottenham. Honestly, Milan will rebuild this man's career. Anyway, that's it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. How do you think every Chelsea player will do when they leave? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to get back to your always. I'll talk to you in a while.